Hi, is this one on? Okay, great, thank you. Hi, I'm Sarah Grace, and I want to just start off this evening by thanking all of you for coming, taking time out, whether this evening or if you're watching from home. It really is a wonderful thing to have so many people showing their commitment to local government and civic engagement. I absolutely greatly appreciate the League of Women Voters. They've been doing a lot of work this fall organizing not only this forum but many others. And so thank you to the League and thank you to the library for always being so accommodating to host us. And I want to take time to thank my fellow candidates. I have said it before and I will say it again, I have nothing but admiration and respect for everyone sitting up here with me. And I know it's not always an easy thing to do, to come open yourself up and be vulnerable. You know, media over there. We appreciate you guys participating as well. It really helps to get the information out and to have informed voters. And democracy can't function without people being willing to be engaged, to educate themselves, and to step up and participate. So that's what I see happening here tonight, and I think it's really a wonderful thing. So I've lived in Athens just over 20 years now. I came here first as a student, and then a few years later moved back to live here permanently and raise my family. I'm a mom of 4 wonderful kids, and my daughter's heard me kind of practicing a little bit, and she gives me tips on what I should include, and she wants to be sure that you all know that they're 16, 14, 7, and 4, and that the younger two especially really like to be active and do a lot of active things. They don't like to just sit around, even if sometimes their mom wishes they would a little bit. So I like to remember my family as we go through this event, and she likes to chime in and help with my preparation. In addition to being a mom, I'm also a small business owner, and because I really like to stay busy, and I believe it's important that everyone continue learning, I've returned to school, and I'm pursuing a master's degree in public health. I love Athens. I love being a part of this community, and I recognize what a privilege it is to live in such a vibrant, energetic, and funky place. I know that it's not something that's just happened by accident. I know that this town is the way it is because of dedication from countless community members and public servants. And I'm running because I'm committed to doing work in whatever way that I can to keep Athens as wonderful as it is and maybe make it just a little bit better. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. So second for an introduction is Peter.
Okay, hello, and thank you everybody for coming out this evening. And I want to thank, I too would like to thank the League for putting this on. Just the amount of forums that you guys are putting forward this fall, it's incredible. I don't know if they're still looking for volunteers, but I know that call went out a little while ago, so we could use some extra help. I say we. My name is Peter Katzis, and I am a lifelong resident of Athens. I was born here, went through the public school system, attended OU, lived in 3 of the 4 wards. So I feel like I have just right off the bat a lot of history, a lot of experience of growing up and seeing the community from a lot of different perspectives. I opened up a business 20 years ago. We have a bicycle shop on Stimson Avenue, and with that, I provide, once again, another skill set that isn't present on council at the level that I have. So I feel like I'm valuable, I'm not a repeat, and as I'm finishing up my first term on council, I'm learning more and more about the city and also about the position itself. So hopefully, with everyone's blessing or vote, we will, I might see what I can do in the second term. So, I think that's pretty much in a nutshell. What else do I want to say about the city? As being a small shop owner, we've been successful enough that I've been able to volunteer a lot of my time. And that comes from being in the bicycle industry, you do a lot of stuff specifically for your customers, for your users. So that is showing up to meetings and asking for facilities and trying to make sure things are safer for your customers. Because the best customer is one that's alive. So as I've moved through the volunteer in this community, I feel that I also have that record that allows me to come forward when we're looking at things and have that additional background that I've invested time into the city and really tried to make this not just a better place, but just a community that I want to be a part of. So I want to thank everybody that's come out tonight, and thank you.
Thanks. Patrick?
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to stand up. I really don't like to use mics, and I like to be able to see the people who have come out. I'd like to thank you tonight. I applaud you for being real citizens. It takes commitment to come out and really make a choice, this kind of choice. I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters. They are always the first source I turn to when I'm trying to figure things out. So thank you. And like Sarah said, I think this is a special election because everybody here is an amazing person. I'm Facebook friends with 3 of them. So I can just tell you we're not hiding anything from each other, and there are differences. We all have differences, and I'm sure that'll come out tonight. I often ask myself why I chose to run the first term. My name is Patrick McGee, by the way. I should probably tell you that. I chose to run the first term because I'm just tired of complaining and not getting paid for it. So I figured I'd be on city council so I could complain, and as people know, I tend to do a lot of that. I'm an independent. I ran as an independent because my position was that the current system where we have a one-party rule of Athens, for the most part, is not representative of, I think, everyone. There are some views that need to be heard, and I'm not saying we have a party boss in Athens or anything like that where voices cannot be heard, but what I'm saying is that we do need independence by our representatives. We need people who will listen to the citizens of Athens. That's been the hardest part of this job, I should say that, the fact that I've tried so desperately to hear what people are saying, and you have different opinions. So you always have to make this choice with this conflicting opinion. As far as Athens, I've lived here since 1970. I took a little break and ran off to San Francisco, Texas, and Europe. Not necessarily in that order, but had a great time. But came back to Athens. My car broke down. I haven't been able to leave since. It's super. It's a great place. I've represented people in various kinds of ways. I was in a private business for a number of years. I was a public defender for a number of years. I still am with the Student Legal Services Program, so I represent a lot of students. So another aspect that I bring to the council is the fact that I hear the voices of people who are, for the main part, not heard. I have survived one term. I hope to survive the second one, and that'll be it. So thanks.
Thank you. Arian?
Thank you all very much. Really appreciate this opportunity to introduce myself to some of you who may not already know me. My name again is Arian Smedley. I have been in Athens since 2nd grade. My folks moved here so my dad could start a business. West, went to Athens Middle, graduated from Athens High. So this has been my home for a very long time. I went to OU and studied journalism and Spanish. I since transitioned my career to social services. I now work with the Athens County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and it's very fulfilling, and I consider it a privilege to work there. I decided to run for council in January. I decided to get involved more politically in November. I think a lot of us kind of felt compelled and felt the responsibility to get more involved in our communities. And it took me a few months to decide what that would ultimately look like. And for me, it ended up being city council because this is the city that I know and love and have lived in for many years and chose to raise my family here. I have a son who attends West. He's in 2nd grade. And so this seemed like a good fit. And so I am particularly interested in running at large because I'm interested in trying to address some of the more citywide issues, namely housing and transportation. And hopefully I'll be able to elaborate a little bit more about that tonight. I was fortunate enough to be appointed to City Council in July to finish out Jennifer Cochran's seat. She had to step down. And so I've been able to experience what it will be like to be on council, because I am on council. And so I've been on there since July, and it's been a great experience to be able to, understand some of the issues that are coming to council. And I currently serve on the City and Safety Services Committee and the Transportation Committee. So it's been a wonderful experience. And again, I thank you all for coming here tonight. Really appreciate the time and effort you're putting into understanding the issues. I appreciate your questions. It only helps us as public officials to understand where you're coming from. And thank you.
Thank you. Noah?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here. I've been a resident of Athens for 10 years now. When I came to Athens, I was working as a professional artist. I had training in graphic design and web development. I ended up giving up that career in 2009. In 2011, Medicaid was trying to change their policy on funding rules on SGDs. SGD stands for Speech Generating Devices. I ended up doing a lot of advocacy work at the state level and co-formed a nonprofit organization that worked on issues related to SGDs. Through doing that, the Programa company, which manufactures my communication device, asked me to become an ambassador for them. About the same time, I started attending Athens City Commission on Disabilities meetings. Around a year later, the Programa company came to me asking me if I would be interested in doing a pilot program with OU. That's how I got started at OU. I was at OU for 5 years. During those 5 years, I worked numerous positions and sat on a number of committees. My last position there was as an outreach coordinator. I also have my own consulting firm which offers a variety of services. One of my latest clients is Athens Transit. I volunteered to be on the HOPCAP's Athens County Transportation Planning Committee this year. That's how Athens Transit got familiar with me. I've spoken at national and international conferences. I live on almost the edge of town on North Blackburn by myself with the assistance of home health aides. I think Athens has a housing problem that affects every class. I know many residents share this concern. This is just one of the many issues Athens is facing that I would like to help figure out a solution to make the community of Athens an even better place to live. Thank you. I thought by only 2 minutes I had more to say.
Thank you all. Now we'll invite we will use the same order for the answers to the first question, and we'll invite Connor Morris to pose the first question.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming here tonight. I really appreciate it. I think my first question, we're going to start off kind of general. What do you think the biggest issue facing the city of Athens is, or set of issues? You can go a little bit beyond one issue if you want. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor. I think that a significant issue in the city of Athens, there are a lot. We're fortunate that we have a really wonderful, pleasant, generally very safe place to live. But we have some really old infrastructure within our city, and that's something that is a major concern to those in the city who are responsible for making sure that all the city residents have maintained roads, water lines, and sewer lines. And so I think that addressing the ongoing need for repairing and replacing some of the aging infrastructure, and in conjunction with that, the city is dealing with a loss of local government funds from the state level. And I think that there are many ways that loss hurts our city that many of the residents aren't fully aware of. And so I think it's important for residents and elected officials within Athens to be very mindful of talking about and communicating with our state legislature about the needs of local government in order to provide safe, reasonable accommodations for our residents.
Thank you. Peter?
Thank you, and thank you, Connor. You know, it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't sound exciting, but yeah, finding taking care of the city and providing those levels of service that people come to expect is key and paramount. And finding ways to pay for it as we watch our state budget, what comes from the state starts to shrink. So those are always the big thing. We watch, like when we had the large water main breakdown on the west side. Those kind of emergency situations eat into what we can do in planned upkeep. The other thing that I see coming down the pipe that I'm somewhat cognizant of is that our fire station is, from the '60s. Our police station is cramped right now. They're at max capacity, and we currently rent $50,000 worth of parking per year so that we can have that station in that spot. It's always a challenge to in this terrain to find a good billable spot that might be a different location. But I think that's always the challenge that we just have to remember and be aware of as we move forward. What are we going to do? What's the city going to look like in the next 15 or 20 years? So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, my answer would probably be the quality of living in this town. And it's tied into housing and employment. And you have to understand Athens is kind of divided in sections. We have little suburbs out there where we have great homes and people can have great families. And then we have little sections of town like Morris Avenue where I live, where we're combined with the student neighborhoods. There's a lot of pressure on us. And so my real answer is, as far as housing, the fact that we don't seem to have enough family-style housing, family affordable housing. So we see our neighborhoods deteriorate. And once that goes, then a lot of things go. As far as employment, who can live on what most people are being paid in this town, to be honest? We need to generate some real employment. There are things that are happening all around us, all around the world, and we can do it. As far as once we have those two things under control, I think we'll be able to deal with things like infrastructure and things that need to be done. Government can't do it all, and committees can't do it all either. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry.
Thank you. Great question. I have to agree with a lot of my colleagues here. Infrastructure is indeed one of the bigger challenges that we have here in the city of Athens. I think you're seeing a lot of that being addressed through some of the major projects that are currently being worked on. And budget constraints, again, another big issue. We've lost roughly $3.5 million since 2009, by the last numbers that I looked at. And most of that is a loss in state funding. And so how do you still provide the services that your city needs, and while also having to adjust to those cuts is always a challenge, and the administration has done a fine job of that. Finding ways to bring in new revenue is the next challenge. And I also have to agree with Member McGee in that housing and living wage jobs are two other areas that are a challenge for the city. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying to tackle that and some of the other questions. Thank you.
Go on.
I think the two of the biggest challenges that Athens is facing right now, housing and jobs, I think they kind of go hand in hand. All of these landlords want to charge student housing prices all across the city, this making it almost impossible for an average person that is not in school to live in town. This making it difficult for anyone to be able to start a small business here or a mid-sized business to relocate in Athens. And if we do get more jobs, housing needs to be affordable so that those workers can live within the city. I also think that people on low incomes and people living with disabilities shouldn't be forced to live in government housing where the standards of maintenance and upkeep are so low that it's disgusting. From personal experience, I know housing can take a mental toll on someone. I think as an inclusive city, we should go beyond the federal fair and equal housing standards.
Thank you. All right, and we're going to invite Larry to pose the second question.
Well, this question has to do with school consolidation. Would each of you go on the record one by one and please state whether you are in favor of a one-campus elementary solution for Athens City Schools, or whether you favor the existing elementary schools as they already are, otherwise called neighborhood schools. Thank you.
And we're starting this one with Peter.
Cut straight to the chase. So I would like to say right now on the record, the council doesn't have the jurisdiction to answer this question. But from a personal standpoint, I do believe that a one building, not a one building, a one campus location is the most efficient way to provide equity for all of our students that are out there. That's my opinion. And what does that mean? That means I have one vote when the process comes up next November when the school board hopes to roll out this plan. Now, why do I believe that? Because being a business owner, I see the efficiency of having all the buses go to one spot. And I also like the idea of getting the kids together at an earlier age. Being from this system, I see the issue when you have the multiple elementary schools dump into the middle school. The factions are already set, and the trajectory of all the students is already kind of set. So I believe that getting the kids together at a younger age is the most important thing to do. Is it going to be in one building or on one campus? I don't think so, because once again, our terrain does not dictate or allow that kind of plan to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick?
Well, I can state unequivocally that I'm in favor of neighborhood schools. I'll also state, for the record, that I disagree with Pete. I think City Council needs to have some sort of input in this. We represent the citizens of Athens, and what the current plan is could be a disaster for those citizens. Now, I'm following the old maxim of Mark Twain when he said, never let your schooling interfere with your education. I say that because there's so much more to this issue than packing kids into one school or, or equitable distribution of education. There's so much more to it. And I know we have strong opposition to that view. But I think there are alternatives. And let me give you one just offhand. And I don't know why people haven't even considered this, but in my mind, we've been told that people in the rural areas in the districts that are outside the Athens area have some sort of inferior opportunity. Well, why don't we do something to improve their internet service so they can actually study at home, so they can receive stuff? The mayor and I went to a conference. The city can do this with the county. We could actually do it. We've got to get rid of this one solution only. We've got to think outside the box, and we've got to preserve our neighborhoods, because that's the real core of Athens. So thank you.
Thank you. Arian, and we have a request for the women on the panel to speak louder.
Okay. Will do.
From now and forevermore.
Thank you. Great question. I do not have a preference on, I don't have a decision, and I don't have an answer to say if I prefer one or the other. What I believe is truly that the school district has a responsibility to address those three main issues that they've been trying to address, which are to provide equitable education to all of the students, including the students with disabilities, integrating them along the socioeconomic lines, and also creating a financially sustainable school system. If they're able to address those three, I would agree with whatever configuration they come up with. They are an independent elected board, and I trust that they are educating themselves on what will be the best interest of their own students. I completely understand and hear some of the comments from the other side who believe that, and believe strongly in the neighborhood schools. I went to West. My son goes to West. I get it. But I think these are systemic issues that have been in place in the community for a very long time, and we now have an opportunity to correct them. And I applaud them for taking it on, and I hope they are able to figure it out. Thank you.
Thanks. Sarah?
Okay. I want to be sure everyone, you can hear me now? Oh, okay. This was phrased to us as an either-or question, and that's really tough. A couple of things I want to say is that it is amazing that we live in a community where the education of our children causes such an uproar. I mean, that's incredible that people are so passionate about the educational opportunities, and it's one of the biggest issues being talked about in this town, and I think that is a wonderful thing. I have very dear, wonderful, intelligent, well-informed friends who are firmly in one side or firmly in the other side, and the thing that has been really really upsetting to me as this process has been going on is that my friends who are voicing their opinions on what they believe is best have been attacked. Just some vicious attacks back and forth, and I would really like to see that stop. For my personal opinion, I think that the city and school district are very closely intertwined, and I would love to see neighborhood schools remain a part of Athens. I think it's a wonderful aspect of the city and of our community.
Thank you. Noah?
I have very mixed feeling about this. As a person with a disability, I think one campus could have better resources for children with spruce needs.
Thank you. And for the third question, we'll go back to Connor.
Sure. So I'm going to go back to the topic of housing. I think everybody's mentioned this in some shape, form, or fashion so far. So a lack of affordable housing for small families is a big issue in the city, as is a glut of low-quality rental homes, and also that continue to increase in cost every year and continue to become out of reach for certain parts of the population. What do you think City Council can do about that?
And we'll start this round with Patrick.
Well, as I mentioned, I don't think it's only city council, but I think we spin our wheels. We keep appointing committees and commissions to study the problem, and then somebody leaves, and then we do a paper and we present it to people, and nothing gets done. And I'm really fed up with that process. I think there are some alternatives, some of which are basically to have a kind of a community bank that purchases homes to sell them to families. That would be one thought. I know OU could certainly put a lot more pressure on the landlord situation in Athens. They did it in, let's see, some of the other college towns. They've actually done it. They require the landlords to do certain things which they're unwilling to do if the students are going to rent there. I know we used to talk to the trustees about that, and it's one of these things, yeah, we come up with all these brilliant ideas, and then a new commissioner is appointed, and we study it more and more. So I would say one thing, the real solution is going to be getting some people who have some authority and some power to get something done, and to get it done quick, because we're losing the race on this, and we're running out of time for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Arian?
Thank you. Another great question. I think that commissions are a part of the solution. They certainly will not solve it. And I was very pleased to see the City Council is introducing and starting up its own housing commission. And what I was challenging the commission to do was to broaden their scope beyond moderate income housing to include low income housing and more accessible housing. I think it's important that we address this comprehensively and not focus on one particular income bracket, because it is an issue. I struggled to find housing for my mom, but we luckily found her place just on the outskirts of town and still on the bus line, but it took a while. And so addressing housing through commissions. I know there's some students who are forming a tenant union, and I think that could be productive, because if we're hearing directly from students, we can engage them in a positive way to help us through the process, identifying their problems, and working through those solutions. Working with landlords is another area where we can improve things, and I think it's going to be a multi-pronged approach in terms of trying to address that problem. Thank you.
Sarah?
Well, I like to speak to this question from the perspective of a landlord in Athens. I own a few rental properties, and I really try to keep the prices, the rent of my properties affordable, so that young couples, young professionals, graduate students who don't have maybe parent or student loans able to afford higher prices can stay. And I would love to see the city work out plans working in cooperation with landlords that incentivizes them to rent to families or to young couples, and working with, whether through modified code inspection schedules as far as when we could do things in blocks, and permitting. I think that there really are some responsible, attentive landlords who want to provide housing for families, and I think we need to work with those that are interested in offering those options, whether through qualifying for vouchers or offering family income level housing, because I know it's a consistent problem, and have met with many people who would like to live within the city but can't afford to.
Peter? Yeah.
Connor, could you repeat that question just one more time? I'm sorry.
Scroll up 10 pages of writing. The lack of affordable housing for small families is a big issue in the city, as is a glut of low-quality rental homes that continue to increase as far as the cost of rent. But also, too, I do think that you could expand that and talk also about medium-sized families, low-income families, just the issue of housing in the city.
And, you know, and I don't think that we're special. I think that a lot of places are kind of going through this same thing. You look at Columbus and how it's, you know, how the center of it is expanding out and really pushing a lot of the, you know, a lot of the families that used to live towards the center, you know, away. So, I mean, it does lend it to, you know, the fact that Athens is a place that people want to live. Now, how do we address that, you know, our housing stock is flipped, you know, that 75% of it is rental versus 25% ownership, where a healthy mix might be a lot more towards ownership. And, you know, encouragement to flip those houses. I mean, currently right now it punches out. So if we don't see another way to house those students somewhere else, you know, I don't know where it's going to change and how it's going to happen. But, you know, I think that at the same time, you know, looking down the pipe, I think that education in the next 5 years is going to be different. And are we going to see a shrinkage in the amount of people that are attending on campus and maybe attending the first 2 years online? That could really flip the whole scenario. And so, you know, as we move forward, I think just tracking these kind of changes that are probably going to shift, you know, in our environment, just knowing that some of those things could start to solve themselves just over time. Thank you.
Noah?
Can I get a lifeline? I don't have a good answer prepared for this question.
I don't see any offers. Thanks for your candy. Well, then we'll move on to Larry for the fourth question.
The city of Athens is a city of around 24,000 residents with a student population of Ohio University during the winter and spring semester is about the same, or maybe a little bit less. Yet the city only has one dedicated parking garage. The university has none, unless you count the lower portion of Baker Center. So the question is, the way that is affecting commuters who cannot access the city's bus lines, and others coming into the city of Athens hoping to attend economic forums or whatever the situation is, do each of you think that the city of Athens needs another dedicated parking garage, or does OU need another or more dedicated parking garages? Please respond.
Start with Arian.
I honestly hadn't thought about that. It's a great question. I know parking is an issue. I know they've tried to make it easier to park in town by adopting the Park Mobile app to make it a little bit easier for you to pay.
I have it.
The question of adding another parking garage, I can honestly say I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of the layout of the uptown area and where it could potentially go. I would certainly be willing to explore that, and talking with the administration and talking with folks who would be, and our planner, to understand if that were to happen, where would it go, what would the cost be, and because it is an issue that we have faced. So I would say I would be willing to explore that. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah, I hadn't specifically thought about a parking garage, and I have to say that they're not the prettiest structures. So from the aspect of aesthetics, but I certainly understand. I guess I would be curious to know on a day-to-day basis what the average usage is of the parking garage, and then at really busy times, how often is our current parking garage full. And if, I'm not sure that right uptown is maybe where we would need more parking. So I guess I don't have an immediate answer, but I would certainly be willing to hear from people who know more about current parking demands and where the demands are, and exploring it. But I think that there probably are some other alternatives besides an additional parking garage.
Peter?
All right. Thank you for letting me play planner tonight. This is an easy one, no. You know, that's kind of the nuclear option. You're talking about a large piece of infrastructure, so you're opening up a whole new piece of debt that I think that there are other options, many more options that we can explore before we pull that trigger. You know, the thing that I see is that we've made great strides with our bus routes. We've streamlined them, you know, to the point where within every half an hour there's a bus coming through, and you can get around town in less than a half an hour. So we're finding that and we're also seeing, you know, at a social level, there's this multimodal shift where people are starting to recognize that you can walk to the bus stop, you can ride a bike. There are other options that you can do besides driving a vehicle. Now I know that isn't going to apply for everyone, but what we're also seeing is with the university's master plan, they're starting to push the vehicles out of the center. So what we have is in the uptown area, all of that area is our most important real estate. And so to park a car on it, it doesn't really benefit the public. It benefits one person, the person who drove the vehicle there. So, you know, I'm in favor of exploring how to get more people into the center without, you know, doing an additional parking structure that's just going to cost more money for the city. Thank you.
Patrick?
Here I go again. I'm against the city building a new parking garage, but I think Ohio University should. I had spoke to the mayor when they were tearing down the science building a while back. I said that's a perfect location for a parking garage. Why don't we ask the university if they would do something, or at least provide some parking spaces? Instead, of course, they haven't. I'm always wondering what kind of relationship we do have with the university. We're supposed to be kind of like this weird partnership, but we need to alleviate the uptown parking. I can see, and in some ways I agree with Pete, I can see at some point in time 4th Street being blocked off and turned into kind of a mecca of shops and restaurants and things, but it's not going to happen so long as you don't have parking. Well, where's the parking? We have one end of town covered, we have a real end of town that we need covered over by where the science building used to be. We can do it. We can get them to do it, I believe, if they can see the need for it. One other thing I really wanted to toss out was this whole concept of the university having some sort of control over the students. Again, it all goes back to housing. If the students are living elsewhere outside in the neighborhoods, it's going to be more difficult to provide housing. And I agree with Pete, it's great that the university is actually getting the city to offer free bus rides to the students. I think that's great. We're finally getting some people riding the buses, but they're still driving the cars too, so let's not get ourselves. Thank you.
Noah?
I haven't really thought about this either. I would like to echo people's answers. I don't know where this would go. I had an answer for a different parking question.
Well, with any luck, we'll get to it. Okay, so we have lots of questions from the audience, and we're going to turn to those next. We will start with Sarah to answer this one. As a council member at large, what do you believe is your biggest weakness, and how will you overcome it?
Okay, so do I say, oh, I have no weaknesses? Of course, I'll always, no. This is sort of like the classic interview question. I tend to try really hard to avoid confrontation, and I recognize that that's, even with as amiable and wonderful a city and elected group as we have, there will be times, and I absolutely understand the importance of sticking to a stated position and being willing to speak what I believe in, and but I think probably wanting to avoid confrontation, and it's difficult. We have a wonderful city of people who are engaged and involved, and as Patrick I think mentioned earlier, you don't all have the same opinions, shockingly. So I would always want to do my best to listen and then represent those that I've been elected to represent while trying to avoid making too many people angry.
Peter.
Okay. I was kind of thinking about this, and and I don't know if this is the same person that asked the same question about 2 years ago, but I'm starting to key into this. So, I think that for me, probably the biggest thing is the way that I run my business. It is a collaborative effort. So whenever I'm going forward with an idea, I am bouncing it off of everyone's head. And thanks to the sunshine laws, I can't say, hey Patrick, what do you think? That's just not in the game plan. So, I have to, I unfortunately you lose that when you have 7, 8, you have 9, 10, 11 people that are, in that room on Monday night, and they're studying this all the time, and they have a wealth of information, and I would love to, have those conversations, but you can't turn to someone that's sitting on the same committee and have them. So I think that's probably the hardest thing. And for me, it's required just recognizing how the system works and coming forth with my own opinion, with the best information that I can collect and understand the situation as best as I can in the moment. Thanks.
Patrick?
I think my weakness is I'm somewhat naive. I came to city council and I thought, you're going to really change some things and get some things done, and I feel like I've been walking around in a big mud puddle, and I forgot my boots. So I've learned a lot in these past 2 years about how things work, and now probably my best attribute is I'm not afraid to tick people off. Okay, I'm not afraid to ask questions, and as everybody on this conference and Mary knows, I do ask questions, maybe too many questions, but I have some strong viewpoints, and I hate to say it, but I think council members are often given a story, an incomplete story, or maybe a line, an incomplete line, and if we don't ask the question, then we're going to stay naive, and I hate to say that's not what you want. You really don't want that. So, thank you.
Arian.
I'd say my biggest weakness in terms of my role on city council would be my inexperience. This is my first go at this. And how do I overcome it? I do that by leaning on people I trust and seeking guidance and feedback. When I decided to run for office, I got this groundswell of support that I still appreciate to this day, and all of those people who came out and said, you can do it, I trust all those people, and so I lean on them when I have questions. I seek their advice and I seek their guidance to help me formulate my own opinion on which way to go on these things. Even with my inexperience, I'm not afraid to speak up and challenge something. I'm a trained journalist, so I was trained to ask questions, and so like I said, my experience would be my biggest weakness, but I think I have a number of strategies to overcome it. Thank you.
Noah.
Well, It's obviously after I bombed here tonight. Slow communication.
Okay, thank you. And how do each of you feel about the Athens cannabis ordinance, or TACO? We're going to start with Peter.
Okay, so the cannabis ordinance, you know, the thing that I really don't care which way it goes, one way or the other. I'm worried about it because I feel like it does muddy the water. You know, when you look at it, it's only going to affect the city, whereas when you look at the university has to run with the state Ohio Revised Code. So if there isn't a good education process about what could happen when you decide to just plead guilty to this charge, there are a lot of things that you could lose. You know, as a student, you could lose your funding, your educational funding, and really, you know, kind of have a hiccup in your life that isn't necessary. I would much rather see it come through at the state level, and then across the city, you know, and you know, in all those borders that we have within the town, it would all be the same. The bottom line is, and this is what I've been saying here recently at another forum that we had, if you are caught, you know, definitely please still consult a lawyer before you do anything. And that's just the bottom line, and I think that's probably the best piece of education that we can put forward if this goes through.
Patrick.
Bob Marley is one of my heroes. I am so for the legalization of marijuana. It should have been legalized 20 years ago. We could have such a vibrant, prosperous community by now. We'd be richer than Denver, probably. Well, maybe not. Am I for taco? Absolutely. Why? It's symbolic. Okay, Athens today, we start with one step. What's the next step? Columbus. Okay, Dayton, Cincinnati. We've got to get to the point that the legislatures who really do not listen to us individually, and they don't listen to groups, they listen to money. But when they start understanding that the people of Ohio really want this legalized, and our cities are passing these ordinances, then maybe, just maybe, we can get some effective legislation. It is symbolic, and I'm the one who has to explain to students this is what's going to happen if you get charged with this. You have this choice, you have that choice. But it has to start somewhere, and I'm proud that it started in Athens, and I support it 100%. I wish we could just have one ordinance that would say it's legal, absolutely legal. You know, it's ineffective, unenforceable, but it's symbolic, so keep that in mind. So, thank you.
Erin.
Thank you for the question. So, I would agree, agree with Member Riggy that it is a symbolic gesture, and I would be for it if it did not have the potential to have a negative impact on students. As was mentioned earlier, it could potentially put financial aid at risk. And if there wasn't this negative possibility, then it's really no longer symbolic. I mean, you have this chance that it could have a negative impact on the future of these students' lives. And so that would be my only hesitation. There would be a lack of understanding of what this would do and what the risks would or could potentially be. And so that's what I think about it. Thank you.
Okay, in all of 2016 and the first 3 quarters of 2017, only 5 cases were charged through Athens County Municipal Court under the Athens City Code. So this taco would be purely symbolic, just because no one, that's just over 1% of the cases are in the past have been charged under Athens City Code. And I think that the potential for harm is greater than the benefit of a symbolic statement. I am really concerned that students and also probably many lifelong Athens residents would be under the misguided notion that there was no longer a penalty to pleading guilty to a minor misdemeanor charge. And that's just not the case. For students, like all the TACO does is remove the local fine if you are charged under the Athens ordinance. And that's really insignificant compared to the possibility of having a guilty conviction for a drug offense that could cost financial aid, could cost future jobs. And I believe that the current state and federal guidelines and laws on marijuana are outdated, they were misguided, and I would like to see those change, but I don't think TACO is the right way to do that.
Noah.
Before I answer the first question, I just want to let everybody know due to my disability, some of my campaign staff and I tried to predict some of the questions that could be asked this evening. If my answer is slightly worded differently, please understand that I programmed some canned answers to help me to communicate faster. I think it's perfectly normal for young adults like yourselves to experiment with marijuana, but it is still illegal in Ohio, and if you get caught, you should get punished. Although that is current law, I'm in full support of Prosecutor Meek's decision to lower most marijuana charges for first-time offenders to disorderly conduct instead, especially for students, since you could lose your student financial aid and driving privileges just for doing something that probably will be decriminalized soon. Anyway, I do support legalization of marijuana for many reasons. I don't feel the medical marijuana laws covers all of the medical conditions that can benefit from it. Besides, anyway, it's socially accepted and legal in many places.
Thank you. Next question. How do you plan to continue the eco-friendly nature of Athens, including incentivizing recycling, encouraging public transportation, etc.? And we'll start with Patrick.
I think it's much more than just recycling and transportation, and sometimes people forget about that. I was thinking the other day, it's been a dreadful summer. We've had a lot of mosquitoes. I'm not sure if people have noticed that. And at the same time, we're tearing down buildings that house swallows and the bats and the creatures that eat these mosquitoes. So there's kind of an absence of awareness of the fact that everything we do has an impact. And we don't look at it. Instead, we want to say, hey, we're doing great at recycling. Let's spend another $275,000 for pretty containers, right? Instead of doing the stuff that really needs done to preserve certain things. So as far as the eco-friendly nature of Athens, we've got a wonderful site. Athens, what an incredible county. As some of you know, I also have supported the effort to have a county charter so that the actual residents of Athens County would have a say in whether there would be fracking or the injection wells. Of course, that's gone down. Right now it's in the Court of Appeals. There'll be a long, lengthy process, but we have to learn that citizens have to open their eyes and see there's more to it than just recycling and transportation. Thank you.
Mary?
Thank you. I'm going to start on transportation. I would love to see the city of Athens expand a wonderful program that does allow free transportation to students at OU to other residents. And there might be an opportunity for us to collaborate with the county to make that happen. More people riding the bus means less people driving, and more people riding the bus to the city of Athens means more people doing business in Athens. And so that could potentially improve a couple of different things by expanding that. I was also reminded recently that the city of Athens was considering curbside composting as a possible endeavor, and I think that could be an added way for us to divert what's being transported to our landfills. I tried to compost on my very small lot, and it was unsuccessful, so I would be one of the first to sign up. And so those are the two things that come to mind at this point. Thank you.
Sarah?
Sorry, I don't have the order down yet. I think that the expansion that has been seen in recent years regarding bus transportation really is an important step, and I've been thrilled that the transit has provided service to some areas outside of the county. Both my teens have used the bus from the Plains to come in to Athens to take classes through CC Plus and then go back to the high school. And so I am all in favor of expanding access throughout the county as much as we can. And like Arian said, bringing people in, providing access for jobs, and doing business within the city, I think is a wonderful thing. And I really believe that small steps do make a difference. We can't discount that. It would get really discouraging if we didn't believe that our efforts to encourage public transportation and recycling and greener yards and encourage more participation in community gardens or gardening in our own yards, I think are all wonderful steps, and I think we need to continue to encourage those efforts.
Peter?
Okay, thank you. So, boy, there's so many different directions I think we can go with this, but really what it boils down to, this is kind of what the citizens of Athens, they want. This is part of our ethos, so it's something that I think administration is very much aware of and has been working for years to provide these types of opportunities. So, looking at recycling, I would love to see recycling expanded to more businesses, especially in the uptown area. I mean, if you could imagine how much green and brown glass does not get recycled during the weekend period, I think that's enough for me to say if we did that, that's a huge step. Efficiency in our buildings, identifying the city buildings that we can improve the lighting and make them run more efficiently. Talk about saving some money and having it for other resources. I think that's a great step to take. And then of course, I'm the transportation guy, and I only have 30 seconds, but complete streets is something that I'm very, I'm very much in favor, where you're taking in this multimodal idea of having pedestrians, bikes, buses, all incorporated into streets. It's not pushing cars out, it's not limiting them to go where they need to go, but it's making the streets safer so that everybody comes out and interacts with it better. Bringing the community out into those public right-of-ways and using them in a manner that allows them to do things better. Thank you.
Noah?
I certainly agree we should be more sustainable. I would like to see more of the city facilities to be ran on alternative power. I also would like to see curbside composting be deployed citywide. I think we could more education on how to be more sustainable. Personally, I already compost. Some weeks I don't even have a full bag of trash to put out. And like I said, I've been working with HealthCap closely to figure out solutions for better pooling transportation for all citizens of Athens.
Thank you. Next question. How do you feel about raising the city income tax? Property taxes go up and up, but are they sufficient for our needs? And this goes to Arian first.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I will. How do you feel about raising the city income tax? Property taxes go up, but are they sufficient for our needs?
That's a really good question. We talked earlier about the cuts that we've experienced at the state level, and the impact that that's had on the city's bottom line. And so certainly one of the other options to generating additional revenue would be taxing your residents. That'd be certainly one way to do it. I think I would only explore that as an option if we had a clear understanding of where those revenues would go and how they would be used. And we have to be responsible stewards of the finances that we currently receive, and how can we, I think I might first explore ways that we can better use the funds that we are getting right now before incurring an additional burden on our residents. Things are tight for a lot of people. So I think before I would explore raising taxes, I think I might consider a better use of our current funds. But I would certainly explore it if the time came, if it was indeed needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'd like to call on our city auditor to answer this question. No, actually, we recently passed a tax increase for the city of Athens, and I believe that currently we are in pretty good financial position. Not that we don't have to be really careful and aware. There are continual demands on our resources and demands for what we can provide. And I just, the state cuts in ways that we hear about with local government funds, but they also just say, oh, well, we're going to cut the percentage that we pay for your public defender. And obviously, providing public defender is an absolute necessity. And when the state cuts the portion that they pay, then the city has to pick up the rest of the tab to continue providing the services that our residents need and rely on. So I don't think that we need to look at a tax increase anytime soon. I did appreciate that the city went the route that they did, rather than raising property taxes, which can really impact people on fixed income disproportionately. So I would hope that we wouldn't need any additional funds in the near future.
Peter?
Okay. You're asking easy questions. This one is, at this point it's no. We just having that 0.2 raise up to 1.85% for income tax brings us in line with other cities our size. So at this point, that you only go to the well once. So you do not want to go back and ask that again so soon. So no, going back to the idea of making our buildings more efficient, I think that's a way that we can try to stretch our dollars and really use our funds wisely. The other thing that I look at, and I hope that the EDC is, I'm sure they're working and trying to repopulate our manufacturing zone now that we just delivered a brand new road with McKinley and the Stimson Roundabout to our only manufacturing zone. So I believe that diversifying our employment and having more business options besides just the one big one that we have are some routes to try to generate additional capital for the city.
Patrick?
Asking a politician to raise taxes in an election year. Yeah. I mean, everyone knows that. As a practical matter, some of you, if you've heard me on city council or seen me on city council, you know I'm kind of the one who says we shouldn't spend so much money. I found it incredibly ironic that a liberal like myself would be a fiscal conservative. But I am. I mean, I would never propose a tax increase at this point in time. I see too much what I consider waste. And again, it's my opinion. It's weight. The city council, the other members have approved certain things, which are questionable from my point of view, whether it should have been passed, or approved. We have a weird system. The money comes in and it's generated into little boxes, and we can only spend money from those boxes. And then there's a question at some point in time, whether it's fair how the money is coming in. Maybe, for instance, the tenants in town pay more for trash than a normal one home citizen. That's a very strange situation. So my point is we can cut back on the waste. We have a lot of money, enough money. As soon as we got the money, we raised salaries for everyone. It was long overdue, but I don't think we should be spending more at this point in time. So, thank you.
Noah.
Sorry to piggyback other people's answers, but I hope it doesn't come down to that, but I would support it if necessary.
Thank you. Next question. Would you bring ideas for free ridership of the Athens public transportation to everyone? Currently, it is only available to those associated with OU. Sarah.
I think it would be wonderful if everyone could ride for free, but we would then have to come up with another way of paying for the buses and the fuel and the drivers. So I'm not absolutely positive about this, but I believe the university pays in order for their students to be able to ride for free. So I don't have any ideas off the top of my head for how we would continue to sustain that, but I don't believe that our transit system is an overly profitable venture, and we try. Attempts are made to keep it as affordable and as accessible as possible for everyone, and I know there are already different rates for students, seniors, and I would certainly be open to exploring options for funding in other ways, but I think that we do need to be able to keep it going, and so I think that you have to weigh both sides of that issue.
Peter?
Yes, it's true. The university does pay, I believe, about $80,000 a year so that the students can ride the buses for free. So it's not a free ride. I know that they do offer. Jesse Spitzer has offered quite a few free days here recently, and that allows people to kind of get out and experience it and see whether it works for their transportation needs. But yeah, at this point, I don't see that as being a viable option, unless we are able to find another infusion of cash from some other revenue.
Patrick?
Thank you. I'm all for it. And one of the reasons I'm all for it is I remember, 3 years ago when the buses would be going by and there might be one rider on it sometimes. And our system is subsidized. Let's face it, it really is subsidized. So now we have students. We have a lot of students riding it. And as Pete has said, the university is paying something for it. I think it would be great if, the buses are running anyway. We're not losing anything by putting some citizens on it for free as well. And when we talk about money coming in, one of the greatest cities I like to visit is Portsmouth, or Portsmouth, Oregon. Portland, Oregon. They have free buses. It's great. You can hop on, you can shop, and there's other cities that do have that, so what is there to lose by actually giving it a try? We're not losing anything, and we can actually, believe it or not, we can do something good for the citizens of Athens too. The rest of us who are paying everything, we'd like a free ride too. Thank you.
It's a great question, and I would very strongly say yes. I would definitely support an effort to make the buses free. The number one challenge for anyone trying to get out of poverty is inadequate transportation or inadequate and reliable transportation. So one way we can try to alleviate that burden is to ensure that they at least have access to a free bus. And then never mind the fact that you're increasing the opportunities for people to do business within your city limits, and then also have the environmental benefit as well. How you pay for it, because it is true that it's not indeed free. I think that would be the challenge, to collaborate with the county, possibly do some research, try to find some funding opportunities that might allow us to experiment with it, because we do have to try it. It is, it would be a wonderful resource for everybody. And the other thing I would add is, in the city of Athens, we have so many services, and we would be increasing those services, not just commerce, but also your healthcare services within the city limits. And so we'd be increasing access to those things for people who need it most. And so I would very much support something like this. Thank you.
Noah?
It would be great, but I don't think that is possible. We would have to look into how to fund it. Some great growth things are in the works.
Thank you. Next question. Mayor Patterson ran uncontested during his first election. Accountability is an important issue. Where do you disagree with the mayor in terms of decisions he has made? Stare at me as he chooses. Peter.
Can't we just look at my record? I don't know. Overall, I'm in agreement with most of the stuff that the mayor is doing. I understand what he's doing and where he's coming from, and I believe that he really does have this city at heart. And it's just minor things. And at the end of the day, I think that you're always going to find that you're not, just like Patrick and I have been on the same side on some things, and I've been on the same side with other council members that I'm usually in disagreement with. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head was the pay rate of the new director of recreation. And that seems pretty minor. That was $6,000. That wasn't. That's not. I have that in my bank account. Past that. I don't know. That's an interesting, difficult question, and I don't have much more for you. Thank you.
Patrick?
How long do we get? Actually, I think Steve is a good mayor. You're doing a good job. Someone like me, I think, serves an important function. It's kind of questioning what you're doing. And I do disagree with you all the time. From the time I came on and I was told that we were spending $275,000 for some recyclable carts. So, I know they're great for some people, and maybe we should have given a reduced rate, but rather than the city actually spending that kind of money at that point in time, maybe we should have reduced it. And as I say, reduce the rates for those people who are paying higher than that would have been a nice thought. The big one coming up, of course, is the tunnel, the Richland Avenue tunnel. I'm an outspoken critic of this. I think it's just typical waste. If you want to deal with a situational problem, what's wrong with using a traffic guard? What's wrong with paying some poor schmuck to get out there and say stop and go, and put a nice uniform on him, give him a badge. And we can do things so much nicer, so much easier, and so much less expensive. And I really disagree the recyclable things, the new hiring, which costs the city more, and I think that we should have considered some other options on that. But anyway, I am pleased to say that one of the proudest moments of being on city council was when, after we passed the income tax, and we were asked whether we wanted raises. I'm not sure if anybody was watching it. We said no.
Marion?
Well, I've been in council a pretty short time, so I haven't had too many opportunities to disagree. The first thing that came to mind was the Perry Parks and Recs director, and I wouldn't say I necessarily disagreed. It was just a matter of understanding everything that went into that decision making and what impact it was going to have on our budget. And once I had those answers, I was satisfied. So I have not had a disagreement as of yet. But the mayor's a great guy. He's easy to talk to, and so if I do, I will have no hesitation to mention it. But up until this point, I have not had a disagreement. Thank you.
Sarah?
Well, as I've not yet served on council, I haven't had specific opportunities to speak out and publicly say, oh, I disagree with the mayor on this issue. But I think that he is a very approachable, accessible person who's very easy to talk to. And I've had many conversations with him over the past several years, and I appreciate his vision for Athens and being willing to sometimes push but then listen. I think specifically about Union Street streetscape issue, and I really appreciated that he listened to members of the community, business owners who have their businesses on that street, and worked to find a plan that satisfied as many people as possible. And I appreciate what that area looks like now, and I appreciate the usability and function. And I think that if there was an issue that was before council and before the city, that while as I stated earlier, generally don't appreciate conflict, I wouldn't see it as conflict to have a discussion with the mayor and tell him that I disagree, and it could still be a pleasant exchange. And so I think that the city functions well in that regard.
Noah?
I would have to echo Peter's answer. I think he basically did a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Full disclosure, I did not write that.
What, are you taking notes?
Copious amounts of
Next question. What are the city's greatest needs in terms of code enforcement? Where is it weak, and how can we strengthen it? Patrick?
Well, it's kind of funny. Last time I ran, the mayor and I were both walking around parts of the city up by the middle school, and we noticed the crumbling steps and the real deteriorating condition of the houses. And they're all student rentals. They're cash cows for certain people, and they really don't want to repair them. I think that's a problem. I think the fact that people aren't maintaining uptown, are not maintaining the sidewalks in areas, is rather embarrassing. The real issue, though, with code enforcement is we have to have people who are really committed to seeing a strong housing code. If you want to come back on some of these rentals, if you want to give people the chance, the opportunity to have their own homes, then you have to enforce the housing code. You have to really enforce that code. That means if a landlord has to pay out all this money to fix his house, then they can pay it out or sell it to a citizen. That's what it's going to come down to. Okay, so I support a very strong housing code. I know the mayor hired a new director, and I applaud him for that. And he also gave me a birthday card yesterday, so I applaud him.
Arian?
Thank you. Great question. I would have to echo what was already said. Housing was the first thing that came to mind. If we had a stronger and more aggressive approach What I've heard from constituents is primarily from students, the issue with some landlords, not all. And so if they had a little bit more support in terms of code enforcement, I think that could address some of their concerns. And so that's honestly the first and only thing that came to mind at this point that I've heard so far. So thank you.
Sarah?
Code enforcement is an interesting issue in this town because we have some really large landlords who are not at all swayed by the penalties of code violations. I mean, even like if you don't mow your grass, then you get a letter from the city, hey, your grass is too tall, and if you don't mow it within a certain amount of time, they'll send someone. And what the city bills for mowing your yard is a lot higher than what you'd pay a teenager with a lawnmower to mow the yard. So, but there are some landlords for whom that cost isn't a burden. It's not enough of a deterrent for them to follow through. And but from the perspective of a small landlord, I was like, boy, if my tenant who is responsible for mowing their own grass, if I got a letter, boy, I'm going to call that tenant and get it done right away because the cost of the fine is significant to me. And so I feel like that it's tricky to find the right balance. But I think that even as a landlord, I fully support a strong housing code, and I fully support the council and administration really supporting the code enforcement officers because they have a pretty big job. There are a lot of rental properties, and it takes a lot of time to do a thorough inspection. And so I do want to give a shout out to the code enforcement officers because in my experience, I found them to be considerate, thoughtful, and willing to give their time to concerns.
Peter?
This is great. I get to tell a little story. So here recently, I'll start off by saying I think it's already happening right now, and that is because I have two rentals that are right next to my bike shop, and it wasn't anything I ever really decided to become a landlord. It was just part of the deal for that property. In order to pay for it, that's how it punches out. I try to take really good care of them because they're the front door to my business, and so I want to provide a good experience for people that are coming and going from my business, and also for these people that are helping me carry the debt load that I have there. Every time the code enforcement comes through, I would get an infraction. The last time that they came through, just in the last month or so, I had 7 infractions, and so I was like, okay, I screwed up, and I've got to fix all these things. But it was interesting, and then I ran into Rick Sorose, our code officer, and I said, it's great that you guys are, picking these things out and making sure that this is happening. And he said, we're doing that. We're definitely stepping it up and trying to get more things fixed. And at the same time, we're going up to a 12-month cycle instead of an 18-month cycle to check all the houses. So I think it's happening, and it's due to the leadership from the top down through the code office department.
Patrick?
I answered that already, but if you'd like to hear it again.
Oh, okay. My highlighter rolled. Noah?
I don't have time to formulate a good answer to this question, but I agree with everyone up here.
Thank you. All right. It's always sad not to be able to get to all of the questions, and by golly, there's some good ones coming up. However, we need to be out of here at 8:30, and we have closing statements yet, so we're going to move to closing statements. We will start with Ariane.
This has been a very nerve-wracking but very fulfilling and exhilarating experience. I thank you all for sitting through it. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for taking the time, and those of you watching at home, I appreciate your time as well. I've learned a lot in my short time on city council, and I've demonstrated, I think, that even though I have the inexperience that I mentioned earlier, I'm not afraid to speak up and where I feel like I need to, based on what I think will be in the best interest of the city. And I've demonstrated through my career, as I mentioned, I worked for the Athens County Board of PD, and prior to that, JFS. I have a commitment to work that is in service to others, and my time on council, and hopefully I'll get elected into a full term, would be another demonstration of my interest and passion and dedication to working in the service of others. In this case, the city of Athens, the residents of the city of Athens. And so I thank you again for your time. Thank you for your questions, and hope to have your vote. Thanks.
Sarah?
This is really fun, and I appreciate everyone asking the questions and putting us on the spot. It's a really great experience. I have a very diverse background of experience, and I believe that I would be an asset on city council. My education is in biology, so I'm trained to think as a scientist, to think critically, to look for data that supports decisions that are being made, and try to make the best decision possible about whatever comes up. Sometimes it drives my husband crazy because I put so much time researching into things before I'll make a decision about something. But I really believe that knowledge is power, and so I like to research before giving final answers on things. And I also have worked for a legislative body, so I have experience drafting legislation and listening to a wide range of constituents and understanding that compromise is a wonderful thing in our society, and being able to find common ground even with people that we don't always agree with. And so I feel that I have skills to both thoroughly understand an issue and also to work with community members and council members to come to a good resolution and make decisions on things that are before us. I truly love being a part of this community and am excited to serve in whatever capacity that I can. I appreciate your time and ask for your vote. Thank you.
Peter?
Okay, ready? Okay. So thank you. You know, I think for me, being up here tonight, I want to echo that I really enjoy working with this group on Monday nights. I wouldn't be up here if I didn't feel like we have a good group of people that are really trying to move forward with the city and the vision of Athens. And what I can say is that I believe that our group really, when you look at government, I believe it's something that you're just kind of on the boat for a short period, 220 years, and I'm going to hopefully push the needle here just a little bit and maybe steer the ship in the keep it on course and keep it going in the right direction. It's not exciting. What I can promise you is I'm always willing to answer questions and be very frank and candid about my views and my opinions, and I think I presented that here tonight. And that's where the conversation starts. If you're a one-issue voter, you're always going to end up voting against somebody at some point because you're never going to agree with them on all levels. So I really believe that the conversation starts there, and then from that's when it's time to educate me, enlighten me about your experience in Athens, and you tell me why you believe your position warrants more discussion. That's what I'm here for, and that's what I believe this position is for. So I'm always when I'm up on Monday nights, I'm always thinking about the majority and how to best support them. So that's why I run, and I hope that you agree. Thank you.
Patrick?
I would too like to thank you all for coming this evening. It was, I'm not sure if I would call it fun, but the exercise was good. So I've probably done more of that than I have for a while. One of my other heroes in life once said, Mark Twain once said, you should never watch laws or sausages being made. I'm kind of a vegetarian these days. I do bring something to the table, and one of the things I bring is kind of the cynicism of age. As we get older, we see the things that really impacted things, that affected things. And it's, again, it's called the cynicism, and I do have some of that. The other thing I bring to the table, though, is kind of still the energy and the desire, the real desire to make things better, to make Athens a better place for our families. I raised my family here. I hope my son stays here after he does some traveling. But it's a wonderful place. So I bring the cynicism and the drive to make it better. The other thing I bring is the realization, I think, that we all have a dog in this race. You have to realize that we all have something either at stake, we're pushing it, whether you're a government agency, whether you're a city councilman, whether you're a citizen, whether you're an administrator. We all have a dog in the race, and it's nice to be able to understand who wants what and who's going to have to pay for it and what it's going to cost and what the effect is going to be. And that's how I make my decisions. I have to first understand what is really happening. And as the last word, again, I would thank you if anybody wants any of my yard signs. I have plenty of them. Thank you.
I'm not sure he could say that.
Oh. Advertisement deleted.
Noah.
I have to say this is a wonderful group of candidates. I would like to thank the Athens County Women's League of Voters for hosting this forum. I would also give a very special thanks to everybody that has helped me with this campaign. It's obvious that all of us love this amazing city of Athens and want to serve our fellow citizens. I came to Athens in hopes of a better life. I used to live in Marietta. I didn't feel accepted there at all, especially by my peers. Not only do I feel accepted in this great community, but I feel like a well-respected member of this community. Since I've moved here, I feel I have found my true calling of education and advocacy. City Council gives me the opportunity to do both. I never dreamed that I would end up working at an institution of higher education or become interested in local government. Athens has given me so many different opportunities that I wouldn't probably have gotten anywhere else. I'm an adventurous person. Nothing is too challenging. May that be working with a class of college students, assessing an event such as the Nelsonville Music Festival, to doing my favorite sports, like zip lining or snow skiing. I would like the opportunity to help all of the citizens of Athens to realize that this town gives everyone the chance of finding their own dreams. This can only be achieved if we have the right policies to ensure the growth and the progression of this community. I believe my diverse life experiences gives me a different perspective in the right direction for this town. Thank you, and I now have yard signs available.
All right. So that we are invited back.